Yes, you are.
Why don't you have the white guy sitting in the middle of the box?
No, I want to be in. Just in case the radio licensing people put it through the door. I know nothing. I came here to buy a curry. It's strict.
No worries. Don't worry. We're in live, so nobody can go.
Don't worry. To me.
They can only.
No, we can review his house.
You'd be surprised what kids people. COVID-19.
Go on, stop. The live on it.
Assalamu alaikum, viewers, listeners. Welcome to another edition of the Community Talk Show. I'm your host, Mohammed Amin. I started a little bit early today as we got a fun-packed show, as always. One of the things I always say to my listeners is our Community Talk Show program is here for the benefit of the community. We do these programs and we want participation from the community. We do these for the benefit of the community, and we would gladly ask you to listen in and put your comments in the appropriate box. And also feel free to ring the landline. The studio number is 0121 682 8142. That's 0121 682 8142. I'll try and answer your calls. Any questions to my guest, please feel free. And to advertise and sponsor a program is 07944 808 141. That's 07944 808 141. And you can listen to me live on www.awaaz.co.uk. A recording of this program is available normally on our social media and YouTube accounts. And also there are local apps. So there's a Radio Awaaz app, there's a Hindi radio app, there's a Radio Garden app as well. So you can listen to us on the various mediums. Now these community programs are for you, the community, and hopefully you shall find some benefit from listening to us. And also it should inspire you to give you some ideas of what you can do, how you can improve the community, the surroundings that we live in your own particular area. My two guests today are visitors who have visited my program before, and I'll ask them to introduce themselves and we will have our discussion about community issues here in Birmingham.
Assalamu alaikum, good evening. My name is Naeem Youssef. I'm a member of the Small Heath Forum and I live in Small Heath.
Good evening, my name is Jerry Moynihan and I provide the administration and administrative support to Small Heath Forum.
Right, both yourselves, Naeem and Jerry, thank you very much for your time. We were kindly invited to the meeting at Small Heath Forum last week, and we would like you to give us a quick summary, Jerry, of why was there a need for a Small Heath Forum? Why is there a need for a community forum? And just quick summary of progress today, please. Appreciate you may have a full lengthy, we will cover that later on, but I just want a quick
I'll keep it as brief as I ever am.
Thank you.
Now,
thank you, Jerry.
Small Heath Forum exists. It's not religiously based, not politically based, not even culturally or heritage. It's a completely neutral forum. It is made up of residents.
Apologies, not even a Baladri based.
Not, as far as I know, not even Brahmin.
Bless you, thank you. I just wanted, because I know you like that phrase. Thank you very much.
And one day I'll learn to pronounce it correctly.
Bless you.
So Small Heath Forum is a group of residents, and the main idea of Small Heath Forum is to try and improve the area of Small Heath and the environments around it, which is Borsley Green, etc. We want to work positively with the council, with our councillors. We want them to support us and we want to support them, because the politicians, the council, are always saying, we want resident involvement. We want to know what it is that residents want. And that's what we're here for. We receive funding from absolutely no one. We are self-funding,
Okay.
right down to our own paper and printing.
Okay.
So we have no agenda
Right.
other than trying to improve the area in which we live.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for that quick summary. Naeem, why did you get involved in Small Heath Forum?
Well, I've been involved in community work for a few years, not that long, not as long as Jerry, and I saw a need where our voices were not being heard. So myself, Jerry, a few other residents that are on this association, we were the ones that were going to the ward meetings, we were the ones that were going to the police meetings, and we saw it being stagnant. So that's how the forum got together, is members recognised each other from these places and said, you know what, let's get together and let's form a group and try and do something positive. Let's actually make an agenda in the sense that we're always going to other meetings and other agendas. Let's have our agenda, and our agenda being the community.
Jerry, how long has this Small Heath Forum been in force, please?
We've now been in existence for
I think since May, wasn't it? Since we were
May.
Since we were incorporated. I think.
Since May, since we became more formalised.
So basically 4 or 5 months.
Yes.
When you proper constitution, more formal arrangement.
Correct.
Okay. So what are the type of issues that residents have come to you, Jerry, to say, look, I've got this issue, what can I do?
So we've had issues that vary from planning issues, fly tipping, everything that normally goes on in an inner city ward. People will come to us with their problems, their concerns, from parking issues, even to private hire car drivers who have problems with the council in issues such as what happens when a private hire car driver is driving along the road. Behind him is a police car and ambulance, two tones going, and they're forced into a restricted bus corridor and they receive a fine. They like to know, what is the policy? Can they get that fine reversed? So it's everything that would normally happen in a ward like Borsley Green, Small Heath, Borsley and Highgate, Ward End.
That's quite interesting. When you have these ward meetings, these forum meetings in your inner city wards, are they open to any members of the public?
If you're referring to our Small Heath Forum meetings, yes, they're open to anyone, to be honest. Anybody who's got an issue. I mean, one of the things that we picked up in this particular meeting, I'm sure you were there in attendance as well.
Yes, I was, yeah.
Crime was a major factor, and as Jerry would say, Borsley Green is an area that we cover. We also cover Small Heath, as in the council wards. Knife crime and gun crime have shot up so much. Now, Borsley Green is the number one area, and Small Heath is number two. So we're concerned about the rising levels of serious violence, including youth violence, which is why we've successfully had police officers come to our ward meetings, our Small Heath Forum meetings. Apart from, I believe, of the 4 meetings that we've had, I believe only 1 meeting is that they've missed. So residents can put these questions to the police officers, to council officers. We've had head of, trading standards, Tony Quigley, that came. And then there's not just the questions that are asked, there's also a follow-up.
Okay.
Which is important, because it's good enough answer. It's not good enough just asking questions. Police officers, sometimes they can't get the answers at that moment in time. Council officers don't have the answers at the moment in time. So we as a forum then take that initiative then to chase up and then to highlight the issue and then to update the local residents as to what's been happening.
Jerry, bring you into the conversation. When you have issues raised by residents and you have representations from the statutory service, say the police, you raise it with the officer that they've given you on the day, does that go up the food chain to the actual decision maker at the top?
The answer to that is yes and no.
Okay.
So we have various ways of doing things. So a member of the public puts a question.
Okay.
They may or may not get an answer there and then, either
Okay.
from the police
Okay.
or representative from the council, trading standards. or when they do get an answer that they're not happy with,
Yeah.
what we do then is research
Excellent.
whether that is the correct answer.
Yeah.
One of our key tools is freedom of information.
Okay.
So the example, Small Heath Park.
Okay.
And everyone knows in Small
Yeah,
Heath,
yeah.
the park has deteriorated.
Yeah.
It would take us an hour to list
Yeah.
everything that was wrong with it.
Yeah.
So at our meetings, we gather what the people are concerned about in relation to Small Heath and what it is that they want to achieve. And we have one of our members, Basmin, who's responsible for Small Heath Park. We will then send a Freedom of Information request to Birmingham City Council, listing all the questions and asking them for the answers,
Okay.
so that we know what the answers are. We know that what we're being told in meetings is either truthful or not truthful. And in relation to those answers, we then know what our next course of action is. So the difference between us, if you go to a ward meeting is very formal.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are all residents and we're all equal.
Yeah.
Not one of us is more superior to anyone else, so
Yeah.
we can talk in a more relaxed way. We're fortunate in that the police officers that come to our meetings, for instance, is it PC Maund, Will Maund, they respect us and we respect them.
That's good.
And what we get is a very genuine answer back.
Okay.
We get if it's something that police can't do because there's no resources, we're told that.
Yeah.
We're not told, as often happens in a ward meeting, oh yes, we're doing that, we're covering that, when we know, no, you're not.
Yeah, yeah.
Over the years, we've been told, yes, we're dealing with gun crime, we're dealing with knife crime, etc., going back many years. Well, then why has Small Heath and Borsig Green become one and number two for gun crime? If you've been doing all this. So it's more relaxed. And as time goes on, we hope that people will trust us because the actions that we're doing are positive.
Yeah.
The answers that we're giving back are positive. And sometimes the answers may not be what you want to hear because this is a bankrupt council. It's a bankrupt council, but it still gets £3.2 billion per year. So it's bankrupt, but it's still got a lot of money coming in. Why isn't that money being spent in Borsig Green and Small Heath? It wasn't being spent there before the council went bankrupt. It hasn't been spent there for the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
So we want the answers as to why our areas are different to, let's say, for want of a better description, the posh areas of the city.
And also, Jerry, for the benefit of our viewers and listeners, Birmingham City Council, on paper, they are claiming it's bankrupt, but statutory services are ring-fenced. And things like housing and police and refuse collection, all that's ring-fenced in theory. But we always know with politics, unfortunately, funding always plays a key part. But then there was something I was reading the other day about all that investment that was spent in Perry Bar, and all those apartments and those flats remain empty. When they are sold, eventually that money will come back to the local authority because that is part of their portfolio that they've got. But leaving that aside, the main issue, and as an independent observer, we attended the meeting last week that you held at your Small Heath Forum, and I was really, really pleased in the sense that a question was raised by a member of the public. One of the statutory services answered the question, and you quite rightly felt that, hang on a minute, this is not the right answer that the individual asked. So you documented it and you said, look, I need a full, and the statutory services said, we will investigate, get back to you. So that was really good because, as you said, on a ward forum, it's all about the 69 wards in Birmingham, and we get this, and it's all a proper structure, as if it's a process that happens in all of the 69 wards. And some of the wards in inner city Birmingham don't even have a ward meeting at all, let alone any open question and answer session to the local elected candidates. But that's another issue. Name How have you found the residents approaching you with the work that you gentlemen have been doing on the Smalley Forum?
I think one of the issues that we've had, and this is an important part, is and you really alluded to it, is that we have a lot of engagement. We've got a lot of engagement, and this is why the police are positively engaging with us, because then they have a feel for what's been going on. So, in ordinarily, you may have a couple of meetings a year by the police where not many people can attend, or they're out of the ward. But luckily enough, we've been able to have 4 meetings with the police coming in, so they also get a feel of what goes on in the community. Because to have neighborhood community policing, you need that community involved. If you don't have the community involved, how are you going to police and set your priorities for that community? Right. So that's really important that we get that through as well. And in terms of the residents, there are a number of residents now who are contacting Small Heath Forum because they're not getting the answers from the local elected members. So sometimes you'll find that residents come to us and said, we've emailed our local elected members, our councillors, and we've not had a reply. So what we are then the intermediaries, whereby we then take up that particular case and we'll send it to the proper authorities, whether it's the police, whether it's the council, whoever's that information that we require for on behalf of the residents that need to get to. So, I mean, a number of questions were asked, and obviously you were there this past week in relation to the policing and how the policing priorities are different to the policing priorities of our community. And, you know, a number of questions were asked, and in the previous Small Heath ward meeting, nobody was there to challenge the police, because the police were talking about their own priorities. They're talking about stuff. For example, I'll give you a quick example, is we know Small Heath and Bullseye Green are number 2 and number 1 respectively in terms of knife and gun crime. Yet the police officer in charge of the area doesn't know where knife bins are, knife surrender bins are. So how do you then expect the community to have confidence in the police if the police do not know basic stuff like that?
No, as I said, I didn't want to use that example, but bless you, that's what I meant when I was saying statutory service. I was really surprised and shocked as an observer listening into that conversation, and it was nice that a couple of questions were raised by residents, and they felt that they could openly give you an opportunity, and the chair gave them enough opportunity to ask as many questions as they like. And there were certain times where they were pointing to Jerry to say, can you make this a point of order, record this, and I need a follow-up. And it was really nice to see that, as opposed to, no, we're running out of time, come on, next point. So that was really good. And hopefully you will see that as the word gets out in the community of what you're doing, more and more people will start attending and inundate you with these type of queries. Just a couple of comments I've had through on the chat box is that Javed Iqbal, Assalamu alaikum bhai sahab. Javed Iqbal is listening to the program, and he's commented, 2 great legends of our community. So there you are, vote of confidence from another activist in the community. Anila Asad, one of my colleagues, she's commented, great program. So people are listening into these programs, and people are listening in to say, well, hang on a minute, there's something good happening here. And mostly when you hear things about inner city wards, it's always bad news, you know, and it's a good that you gentlemen have decided to take the initiative and go forward. What are your plans for the next 3 to 6 months?
We want to grow. And to be honest, we want to become more influential. So we want to achieve a kind of situation where the statutory authorities, the police, are not reactive to situations.
Okay.
They're proactive.
Okay.
Prevention is better than cure.
Yeah.
So we can contact directly the Chief Constable of Birmingham in relation to issues with the local authority. If we're not getting anywhere within a certain period of time, we can actually put down a question at full council.
Right.
And one of us will go there, stand at full council, and put our question requiring an answer to the entire council. Now, that can be embarrassing, especially to the leader.
Yeah.
So the situation we want is make all our questions dry up, deal with them, fly tipping, deal with it so we can't even report it. Crime, deal with it so that we're not suffering, residents aren't suffering, and this becomes a safe area. Now, when I walk down the Alum Rock Road, you can see the vibrancy of the shops. But once we hit a certain hour, do you want to be on the road? There's crime, there's antisocial behaviour. We want the police, the council, to eliminate that so that people feel safe and that we can have a nice culture. People can go out and eat on Alum Rock Road. They can go and shop in safety without cars screaming up, fireworks going off, risk having their wallets, their watches and everything stolen. So slowly we will build, and that's what we want. We want to be in a situation where the councillors will come to us. What's the problems? How can I help solving them? The police will come to us. What are the problems? How can we solve them? And ask us, how do we think we can solve them with them? What is the answer? Because in reality, if there's something that doesn't have an answer, at least we can understand, well, nothing's going to be done because there's a lack of £1 million of funding, or there aren't enough council officers, enforcement officers, there aren't enough police officers. Some things we have to live with, but there may be other ways around it. The same with the fire authorities. You know, lots of the businesses around here, lots of the shops, if we can get them proactively into those shops, into those businesses, advising them on fire safety, the number of fires in the area, they'll reduce. That's a massive saving to the fire department. Fly tipping. When fly tipping builds up, and in the summer months, when kid decides to set fire to it, that's a minimum of £500 call out to the fire service. Right. Okay. What would it cost the council to remove it? £70 to £80. It saves us because we're paying for the fire authority through our council tax, we're paying for the police through our council tax, we're paying. These agencies all call themselves partner agencies. They all make the claim they're working together. Now, Sutton Coldfield, Solihull, they may be working together. They're nice areas. But to be honest, I can't see where this working together has made any improvement in the inner city wards. If you go to Bawdsey Highgate ward, virtually every road there is something wrong. Fly tipping, lampposts that are knocked down. I have examples of fly tipping that's been reported time after time in the Bawdsey Highgate ward, and it's still there after 2 years. These things only eventually get removed after they appear in the media. In Dolman Street, we've got a 48-ton abandoned container full of fly tipping.
Wow.
What's the council done about it?
Yeah, that's sat there, hasn't it?
Absolutely nothing. It's been there so long. If you go to Dolman Street, where the city has, and you can go there free on every Friday to see the museum collection of Dolman.
Yes,
yeah. Great place to take the kids, absolutely fantastic, and it's free. Go on a Friday. But you'll see on Dolman Street, it's been there so long that the feet have sunk into the tarmac,
that's right,
of the pavement and the road.
Yeah.
And so it begs the question, why are the council doing something? Again, we're bankrupt. As you pointed out, yes, they have a 3.2 billion budget each year, and 1.2 billion of that is what's called the controllable budget.
Yeah.
That's the amount that the council can decide how to allocate out and what's their priorities. You're quite right. Education is paid for around that 3.2 billion, but the council has no real say. That allocates that funding out to schools by a government budget, a government formula. So we would like to see some prioritisation, and we would like to see our areas improved. And the reason to improve them, it makes us healthier. we have better lives, and the children of this area, they go through the school system, they become educated, they become the doctors, the lawyers, the accountants. First thing they do is they move out of the area.
That's right.
And because they move out of the area, they are not spending their income in this area to regenerate the area. You know, they'll come back and visit mum and dad. You know, they'll be living in Sutton Coldfield, Solihull. They'll come back when mum and dad driving in the car. You're right, mum and dad. And then sadly, when mum and dad passes away, that's it. There's no expenditure from them in the area. So I'll try and be brief.
No, carry on. I'm listening to everything you're saying.
If you go back, let's say 90 years, Small Heath, the houses around Small Heath, Naeem, who lived in those houses around Small Heath?
Well, back in the day, it was the Irish, wasn't it?
No.
And then
Before the Irish, the wealthiest areas in this city.
Small Heath was one of the wealthiest, believe it or not.
Handsworth.
Yeah.
That's why those
big houses were.
That's
coach
why those
houses, we had coach houses,
Big coach houses, coach inns, yeah.
And that's why we got Small Heath Park, etc. It was a luxury area.
It was a luxury area.
That's what we want to do. We want to bring it back to being an area where people are proud of and they want to live there. So again, the last thing I'll say is, we will work with any councillor from any part of the city, any cabinet member, any police officer, any head teacher of a school who wants to get their school involved in litter picks. You know, it's the kids' future. We will work with anyone positively. Now, part of the problem is, and part of the problem why people don't go to ward meetings, why people don't go to the police meetings, why they don't go to all these meetings, because they're afraid to say anything. They're afraid to put their view and their point, so they don't do it. They suffer in silence. We will do it. We will be attacked left, right and centre. But that's what happens when the people who don't want things to improve, they will attack you. They will stop you. When people don't want to be, who are paid for out of our council tax, when they don't want to be held to account, they'll attack us. Sadly, often these people don't even live in our area. They have power and authority over our area. They don't live here. They don't shop here. They don't do anything here. All they do is take the money for here. And that's what we've got fed up with.
And you remember, Jerry, many years ago, 30, 35 years ago, a councillor was normally a working class individual who used to stand up for the local authority as a candidate for a councillor for that particular ward because they wanted to see some improvements or whatever. And over the years now, it's become like a paid job in addition to a paid allowance, depending on if you sit on the existing additional committees, there's some further allowances and what have you. And there's all sorts of figures being branded about, but even in social media, what X gets and Y gets, but the local authority releases the annual statement so you can see what X councillor gets or Y councillor gets. But isn't it important that the individuals who represent this area on the local authority do something to bring some improvements into that area?
You're quite right. They should be doing that. The whole principle of wanting to be a councillor should be based on wanting to help the people that you represent, wanting to improve the area. But as I said, if you look, a lot of Birmingham City councillors, they don't live in their wards. Yes, it's a paid job, and it's a well-paid part-time job. And yes, when you add allowances on, etc., if you're on the fire authority, things like that, it's a considerable amount of money. And sadly, the days of, if you take a Labour councillor, of a poor working-class Labour councillor, they don't exist in Birmingham anymore.
No.
They don't. They have mini property empires. They run businesses. They have very little time to actually engage with their community. And as I said, if they don't live in the area, they don't know what the area is like. That's what the forum is about, to let them know what the priorities are, what's happening, and what residents want done. So, yes, it is sad, and it's part as well that councillors in areas, inner city areas, they have become so remote from the communities that they should be representing. So remote. And that's the sadness. Some would say, well, they don't want to do anything for the communities. They're only concerned about being re-elected. They're only concerned about sitting in the council house quietly, agreeing for what their party wants. Which, if we'd had dynamic councillors at Birmingham City Council who were asking questions, who were probing, would this council be bankrupt? The one thing they're all saying now is, I didn't know. Oh, nothing to do with me. I didn't know. An issue that has occurred 10, 12 years ago and has been getting worse and worse, report after report after report, and you've got every single councillor saying, I don't know. The big issue for them is, who's going to be the leader? Who do I vote for? Why do I vote for them? What can they do for me? What can I get from it? And that is the sadness of it. And I'll emphasise again what we're about, and we want people to join us. If the council don't want to help us and the statutory authorities don't want to help us, we have to help ourselves. We live here. We have to support our own communities.
There was a comprehensive response from Jerry about the actions of the Small Heath Forum. How have you found that the residents open up and come to these meetings that you hold?
Well, the residents are now comfortable because what it is the residents recognise us. So they know that we are part of the community. People know me for who I am. They know me for the work that I do in the community as a business that I run. But when they see someone, and a lot of these guys actually know me, they've seen me, how I operate, and they respect me, and they know that this is an honest person. I'm just your average Joe Bloggs. I live in the area, I work in the area, and people are much more comfortable with those people who know what the issues are of the area. I mean, Jerry alluded to the fact that a lot of these guys, councillors, are only there. I mean, as somebody who have Kashmiri background, you're well versed with the fact that a lot of these guys are only voting on biradari politics. Some of them are so remote that they don't even know what's going on in the area, to the extent they don't even know which police force covers the area, neighbourhood policing. So it's quite, it is important that the trust is maintained. And thus far, I think we have done a smashing job. People like myself, people like Basmin, because you said gentlemen, but also females.
Oh, sorry, yeah, there's
females
Basmin,
as well,
yeah, sorry.
Who've been volunteers prior to our forming this group in the community, helping the residents out, helping with Small Heath Park. So she's sort of part and parcel of that Small Heath Park. She knows what's going on. The best people to talk about issues are those people who are actually really volunteering. Volunteering is very important, not getting paid for it. Volunteering, because volunteering is you're taking out your precious time to help the community. The reason I'm involved in the stuff that I'm involved in is nitrous oxides for me was about the crime that was happening in our areas. And then it's not just about, okay, this is the crime. What are the roots of it? Who's doing it? How can we better it? So these are things that we got together and said, yes, this is what's going on. So we do our own research, like Gary said. This is what's going on in our community. We provide the evidence for that. So it's not just what I said, you said, he said, she said. The evidence is then provided. And then we look for a route in how do we rectify these issues.
To be honest with you, I've been following your campaign with nitrous oxide, and I was quite shocked to see how readily the canisters were available. Furthermore, as the time went by with your work in the community, you were like collecting them, and you built up in a very short space of time a serious amount of collection, and that was just only from your little patch. And then I realised when I was out and about in the community, I realised what that canister was, because I didn't know any different. But the important thing was that the fact that now, after battering the local authority, the police, the MPs, it's gone through the system now, and now after some 10 years now, when it was originally highlighted, it's actually like gone through Parliament, and now there's legislation in place now. So hopefully the law will come to these people, and the regulatory individuals, the enforcements, will do something about it now, because there's something in place now.
But can I just interrupt there? I think one of the key aspects that we should all have been looking at and still need to look at is, why do young people in our areas resort to nitrous oxide? Why are they resorting in some cases to hard drugs? What is missing in their lives? What is it that they can't look forward to with a bit of hope? What is it about these areas that our young people are so desperate, are so worried that they are taking? And the reason they take nitrous oxide, because it gives you a high. It's a short high. Why do they need that? Do they not know the high you can get out of stopping and talking to one of our older residents in the community, helping one of our old residents in the community, volunteering, doing litter picking? Why are they taking these drugs? No youth facilities in our areas, job crisis, etc. We need to be looking, because the nitrous oxide issue, sadly the reality is, if the new legislation, which I don't have much faith in, does restrict nitrous oxide, what will they move on to next? Because the problems that they have, it can be social, it can be economic, it can be health, it can be depression, it can be many things. If those things aren't dealt with and removed, they have to find something else to replace the nitrous oxide. In our community, it isn't alcohol to the greater extent.
Yeah.
In other communities, it's alcohol that people, and as you know, most violence is alcohol related. So it's these things that we want the authorities to look at and do something. A piece of law, a piece of legislation, it's not a great cost. But these types of legislation should be followed with massive amount of funding to deal with the causation and the reasons as to why people use alcohol, or rather misuse alcohol, misuse drugs, misuse nitrous oxide.
I mean, in our recent meeting, I'm sure you were there, the police officer alluded to the fact that, was it £1.5 million worth of nitrous oxides? And
Yes.
I asked the question that, why could you not use the previous set of regulations, legislation, to actually, to your effect? Because
what Naeem has failed to say is, we were informed that recently in the Highgate area, the police were called to a warehouse that had over £1 million street value of nitrous oxide. Just so listeners and viewers know what the context is.
So the thing is, any rule, any regulation is only as good as the enforcement. So where we had existing regulations, and this is where we're in tune, and we look at stuff from our Dr. Nichols, who's the foremost authority in this, in that we don't want our youngsters to be criminalised. But at the same time, where are these bottles coming from? Why isn't it being legislated? In police meetings, we've been told by the police that they are working with, for example, trading standards. Yet when our meetings we have, trading standards have told us they are not working with the police. So this is where we are getting old in a minute. One person saying one thing, one saying another. We are going to be listening to whoever's actually bringing down that proof. A lot of issues that Jerry said as well, in terms of what are the underlying issues. There's education, there's lack of aspiration, and it carries on and on and on. In Small Heath itself, I don't know, Jerry knows better than I. Can you name any facility, say, for old people, for young people, for the youth within the Small Heath ward? If not, why not?
not off the top of my head, there may be some associated with religious groups that are helping their own communities. But we'll be told by the council that funding, finance, I would hope and pray that, and going back to your question about the future of Small Heath Forum, and I'll be honest, I'm sad that there's any need for Small Heath Forum, but I would hope that those people who are more influential, like the MPs, Liam Byrne, Jess Phillips, and we know that Jess will now have more time because I understand she's recently resigned her shadow cabinet position over the Gaza situation.
Okay.
I would hope that they would come to our meetings and listen to the residents, listen to the views. That's what they're supposed to be, delegates from the community. But when they're so remote, who are they listening to? They're certainly not asking us or listening to us. So, and there are issues that the people beyond the fly tipping, there are issues that the people, especially in these areas, are really hitting their hearts. And that is Gaza. Listen to what people are saying here. Support the people here. Because by supporting, if our members of parliament support the people here, they'll be supporting the people that need support in Gaza and Palestine. So we're asking, listen to the community. Please listen and act on what the community wants.
I think the community wants its elected members and representatives to stand with them, in unity. Humanity is humanity. We're all human beings at the end of the day. I mean, we all bleed red. There's no doubt about it. Behind our colour of our skin, we're all the same. There's no difference. So we want our elected members. If you're an elected member, you've been elected by the community. So why not do the right thing and stand by with your community? If we're asking you to do something illegal or something dangerous, then don't do it. But we're asking you to stand up for humanity. Is that too much of an ask?
Just looking at the comments, Baz Khan has kindly joined the programme. Baz, thank you very much for your time this evening. She's commented, two very high-profile volunteers. I am honoured to be working alongside them and learn from them. Baz also continues to say, something greatly missing in our communities for young people, and I think Naeem alluded to it a minute ago, something greatly missing in our communities for young people, lack of youth services, counselling services, and upskilling. And these problems haven't originated overnight in inner city Birmingham. It's over the last 2, 3, 4 decades. So going forward, and appreciate funding aside, because let's be realistic, if you need the money is available, pots of money is available outside of local authority. And as Jerry alluded to earlier on, it's the willingness to improve, the willingness to bring some services in. For example, somebody mentioned to me yesterday on some discussion that I was having about certain pots of money are available for certain community activities and what have you. There are always pots of money available for community activities. Whereas previously you knock on the local authority's door and the local authority will give you a blank cheque. Those days are gone. Now you have to knock on about 10, 15 doors to try to explain your problem, and there's a willingness there from external organisations. What would we like to see in an area of Bawdsley Green, Small Heath, as a starter?
Can I just point out something? As I previously, we don't receive any funding from anyone. And
that's right.
We're not really interested in receiving funding, but we would be quite happy to support individuals in the community who have come up with a project. Yeah. We're quite happy to help them apply for their funding. But let me just point out, any activity that requires funding, between 63 and 67% of the expenditure of that funding will be for employing people to actually do that which the project is set out for. But as a forum, we are volunteers.
You're volunteers,
We already provide that 63 to 67%.
Yeah.
We do that. We do our litter picking. We do the things that are needed. So one of the things about funding is how it's broken down. In areas like Small Heath, again, it is the lack of youth opportunities. It is, like with Small Heath Park, that Basman's been so vocal on and has put so much work into. It is about allocating funding and getting projects in there and taking ownership back of Small Heath Park so that it's clean, it's safe. Activities are being held in there from when I go in there, and I'm an old man, I see all the other old men walking round in a circle, especially on a Sunday, gives their wives a bit of a rest for an hour or so.
Respite, yeah.
But what is absent? The outdoor gyms.
Yeah.
Other activities. It would be nice to have, within Small Heath Park itself, a little social centre where people can meet, be warm, have a cup of tea, coffee, socialise, talk. So it's these kind of things we want, and projects that bring the community together. So taking Small Heath, the community of Small Heath is becoming more diverse. Mm-hmm. It became diverse as the bulk of the community became from the Kashmiri, Pakistani populations. But now in Small Heath, Somalians, Eritreans, Romanians, it goes on.
It's a lot more diverse.
Afghans. We need activities that will bring all communities together and unite as one, not 10 years' time when suddenly there are problems because the communities are living separately and scrabbling between each other for that funding, for those activities in their little, and they use the term silos. We are one community. We have to live together. We need to live together.
And there was an initiative by the local authority about a year ago, which was their Warm Spaces initiative, and basically a pocket of money was available for individuals to bid for, and exactly what you've just said now. Certain individuals bidded for that money and what have you. Firstly, the community doesn't even know X has bidded for that money or Y has bidded for that money or what have you. They kept it with their individual silos. Right, so the initiative was a great initiative, but it didn't really make any impact. And for example, what you've just said about a little cafeteria place, you don't have to go far from Small Heath. You can go down the road to Cannon Hill Park. Cannon Hill Park got a nice little cafeteria where people go there, have something to eat or what have you. More importantly, some of the elderly people, they may be talking to somebody, that may be their only connection from the outside world. And it's, if it's projected in such a way, it's financed in such a way, some of these little cafeterias don't cost a substantial amount of money. Appreciate there's the capital expenditure to build them, but the ongoing running costs, and more importantly, they can be used to generate income and train people, but that's you've got to have that vision. You've got to have that wider vision.
But you know who originally started these projects back in the day? It was councillors.
That's right. That's right.
It was the councillors would tell their own community, this is what you're telling me what you need, right? I'll go away and get the funding. I will. And a lot of councillors back in the day came from community workers because they saw, hold on a minute, we set up our project, we're doing, but there are other parts of the city. It's a council we go to get this funding, and they're motivated to stand as councillors because they had the belief that they would have that little bit more influence, that little more power to help their communities. Those were the days of good councillors.
Right. I just want to add on to what you said. You talked about Cannon Hill Park. Now, one of the things that I knew Jerry from last year was the Small Heath Park Lodge. Right? And we thought ourselves, at the time when you had them warm spaces, we said, why couldn't the Park Lodge be renovated, and if it was renovated, it would have been an absolute perfect space for a small heath, for a warm space.
Warm spaces.
Not only that, I mean, Jerry would tell you, I would tell you, Javed, who does a lot of work in our community as well. So kudos to Jav. We see regularly people in the park urinating. Actually, and we can't disturb them. Because obviously, some people have health ailments and etc. etc. The Park Lodge would have been a brilliant place for a toilet. It would have been a brilliant place for the local police teams to come to talk to. We've seen many parts in the park that are full of feces, human feces, because people cannot keep it in. So where you have a central focal point, it won't take millions to get the Park Lodge back into community use, but that's the problem. We need it back into community use. You talk about the outdoor gym where people need to can exercise, be healthy, etc., etc. We were promised start of this year that work was going to be starting on that gym in September, but nothing happened. So we're getting promises after promises which are broken again and again and again by our elected members, and we only find out recently that contract hasn't been signed. So why are we being led down the garden path in that contracts have been signed, work will start in September? How can work start if there's no formal contract in place? These things are things that we need within the community. I mean, Small Heath is, like Column Rock, a buzzing place. So facilities are important for our youth. It's like Jerry said, right? You've got your individual communities not talking to each other. Imagine if we had the park where everybody could come and do shared work. I mean, one of the things that I said was, why not have a nursery for a garden nursery, as in the horticultural type, where we've got people within our community who are experts in that. So planting seeds, planting gardens, have a little nursery, get the kids, local schools involved, get the local communities involved, and get them to actually grow stuff there. That'll be an excellent thing to do. But at the moment, it all seems to be falling on deaf ears.
But you know what you've just said is absolutely fascinating, because the elderly people enjoy that type of interaction. It pulls them out of their homes.
Yeah.
They're doing something. Those minor ailments and antidepressants and all those medication they'll be taking, it'll come down.
Yeah.
The knock-on effect will be less drain on the air. It goes round in a circle, but somebody has to look at the bigger social picture, though.
I mean, look what happened in COVID, when a lot of the elderly people were stuck at home. Some of them still haven't gotten over it. The amount of, I mean, I know from personal experience, I know some elderly people who were regular worshippers at the local masjid that couldn't walk 10 paces. Because they were just stuck at home. And if you've got something to look forward to, when you get up in the morning, you'll have a much positive attitude and outlook throughout the day. And that, generally speaking, would make you more healthier, wouldn't it?
I must admit, though, and I do like Cannon Hill Park. And I do like walking around Cannon Hill Park. And Cannon Hill Park is exactly the same as Small Heath
Small Heath Park.
It's Louisa Island.
I was going to say Louisa Island. If you think about where these parks came about, they were gifted to the city of Birmingham.
And it's the same lodge. Cannon Hill Park
That's right.
is the same
That's
lodge
right.
as Small Heath Park.
That's right. That's
They
right.
both have lakes.
That's right.
Small Heath used to have
That's
boats in it. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Cannon Hill Park has,
Yeah.
and they built the Midlands Arts Centre.
Yeah.
Now, they are both the same parks, similar layout, but to be honest, it's our community.
And it's chalk and cheese, isn't it, when you look at
it's
the
our
two?
community, Small
Yeah.
Heath, and we want to be positive about
Yeah.
Small Heath. We don't want to talk Small Heath down.
Yeah.
But the reality is, these parks are totally different. Why is it? Why? And I'm asking you, and I think we already know the answer to this, but I'm asking the people out there, why is Small Heath Park the way it is, and why is Cannon Hill Park so lovely with all those millions that are put into it? When people visit from other local authorities around the world,
That's
and
right.
they come to Birmingham,
That's right.
okay,
Yeah.
and they're shown around by
Yeah.
the council and councillors,
Yeah.
Kings Heath Park,
Yeah.
Cannon Hill Park,
Yeah.
certainly not Small Heath Park.
And you know, Kings Heath Park used to be the ATV garden centre.
Yes,
there, and
going back a few years.
You know, 20, 30 years ago, there used to be the gardening program. Used to come
program,
on.
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't remember. It was on a Sunday, I think it was. Right, and he said, "Oh, now the ATV garden." It was known as the ATV garden, at,
Yes.
which let ATV became central as we know it. But it was this speciality horticultural centre, and even under the local authority, some of the shrubs and the trees and the saplings, they still use the King's Heath Park.
I was actually in Smallheath Park as friends of Smallheath Park when the council came, and they used the term grubbed. They grubbed up all the flower beds. They grubbed up some of them that Friends of Smallheath Park had got funding to put in. If you go into Smallheath Park now, there are no flower beds.
Oh, okay.
There's nothing. Cannon Hill Park, King's Heath Park, absolutely fantastic.
They're maintained.
But they're all ripped out. And the reason the council ripped it out was, well, we don't have to pay for maintenance.
Okay.
We don't have to send the teams to cut them every year, the rose beds.
Yeah.
But they didn't do it to Cannon Hill Park.
Yeah.
They didn't do it to King's Heath. Why did they do it to Smallheath and Smallheath Park? Why? And going back over the years, why did our councillors of various political parties over the year, why did they allow it? Why are they not now shouting at the top of their voices at the council house, why are you singling out Smallheath and destroying Smallheath?
Destroying.
I apologise for my passion.
No.
But you know I've been doing this, the frustration, I've been doing this for 20, 25 years. And everything has got worse. Even during the times when there was money.
Yeah.
Even the times when there was a Labour government.
That's right.
And when the MP for the area, Liam Byrne, was the secretary to the Treasury.
That's right.
Yet didn't do anything.
I mean, it's unfortunate that we've got elected members who, so far, I mean, I'm sure, Jerry, you can remember, it's part of their mandate, wasn't it? Smallheath Park and the Park Lodge.
Yes.
That will be working. But as yet, we've not seen anything concrete to actually help deliver that mandate. So we need people who are actually representing the interests of the residents, the interests of the people, to speak on our behalf. And I think so far that's been lacking in probably everything that we've touched on.
We had one councillor, Councillor Zafar Iqbal. He was the only councillor who actually tried to progress Smallheath Park and the Lodge. But as he was becoming effective, what happened? They redesigned all the ward boundaries and Smallheath no longer came under him. You know, that's the sadness. But what should have happened is the next councillors should have taken up from where he left off.
Yeah.
But nothing has happened.
I know. We're referring to Smallheath Park. We have a similar type of issue here on this side of the inner city ward here in Alum Rock as well. I always, in my community talk programs, I always encourage the sitting councillors of whatever ward they are as part of the city 69 wards of the city. I encourage all of them. And this is their right of reply. I always give them an opportunity to come on, and obviously I will control any phone calls or anything that I give them an opportunity to say, what are you doing? Believe it or not, in our part of the city, we haven't even got a ward plan in Alum Rock, and we haven't had one for years.
I think it's important that council be accessible. That's one of the most important things that I think, is that so that they're accessible to the community, but it seems like certain councillors don't want that accessibility. They want to be as far removed from the community as possible, but at the same time saying that we are part of this community. I mean, there was a time where councillors were, like you said, used to live within the area, so they know exactly what's going on. They're actually feeling it from the residents. If you're living in a posh area of Birmingham, but at the same time, you're thinking, I'm going through, you're not going through what the residents are going through. You don't have to drive through what we have to drive through, you know, the car crime, the vehicle crime, the antisocial behaviour. And that leads me on to another point, is that one of the things that we've noticed in our areas is the exponential rise of businesses that don't have any licenses, that are building shops and shop frontages massive amounts without without planning permissions, without building regulations. So, as residents that live in these areas, how safe are we in going to these properties when there can be fires in these properties? They can collapse because they've not had the building control to come out and check. So that's something that we will be tackling hopefully in the future too as well.
Councillors get all the planning applications for their ward. They're sent to them electronically. If a councillor lived in a ward, as they're walking around their ward, talking to people and seeing there's no fly tipping and if there's reporting, as they're walking around, they will suddenly see, hello, there's a shop that's built a canopy right over the pavement. Now, I don't recall seeing the planning application because if I had, as the councillor, I would have objected to it.
Right.
But because those councillors don't live in the area, they're not walking the streets looking, nothing happens until residents get upset. And of course, if you've had something for 4 years without planning permission, that's it. It automatically can't be removed. The only aspect is, does it comply with building regulations? And Small Heath, Borsley Green, Borsley in Highgate, Allen Rock, all these areas, for some reason, you can build what you want.
Yeah.
You can open what you want. You can have it 24 hours. And if possible, some would have had them open for 25 hours because the councillors aren't complaining. The councillors aren't stopping it. The councillors see what goes, and don't get us started on drop curves. But in the old days, councillors would be walking around their wards and seeing these things and asking the officers, why is this? Why hasn't that been collected? Why hasn't that? Why? And if anyone wants, as I said earlier, I can give you examples of fly tipping that's been in the same place for 2 years and it hasn't been removed. Now, if a councillor asks the council or the head of
Environmental Services.
the head environment or the cabinet member, whoever the cabinet member for waste and environment is, I have no idea whatsoever. Whoever that person, if a local council asked them and said that's not been moved, it's been there a week, it would be removed. But 2 years?
And then you've got the issue of if these issues were nipped in the bud, you wouldn't have 15, 20 shops, for example, where I live on Coventry Road, opening 2-3 doors away from each other. So they know that they can get away with it. One of the things that we picked up on our meeting, in the previous meeting, was that there are shops out there that have had 20 notices, upwards of 20 notices for the illegality, yet the council are not doing anything about it. So if a councillor knows there's encroachment, there's illegal building, etc., etc., why are they not looking at it thinking, hold on a minute, that thing wasn't there yesterday, how has that popped up? Where's the planning for that come from? How safe is it? It's not just about building it, it's building it safely. How safe are the residents to go into a shop? God forbid there was a fire in some of these shops. There's a lot of combustible material at the front of the shops. If all those toilet rolls and that caught fire, how are they going to come out? And if there was a fire at the back and you've got nitrous oxides and that exploded, there's the safety of the residents, the shopkeepers and the fire brigade.
And it's the general harm to our community. In this side of the city, we have the highest rates of obesity amongst kids. Why do we have these high rates of obesity? Because you just have to walk around. Every 10 yards, there's a fast food outlet. When the planning says only 10%. That's why our kids are so obese. And those problems, we've got highest rates of diabetes. Young kids are developing, as young adults, with diabetes. There was an old saying in the United States of America, and it was in areas, black African-American areas. And the reference was, why in every black African-American area, you go to the corner of a road, there's a shop selling alcohol, and next to it is a shop selling guns.
Yeah.
Why? Because some Americans thought that solves the problem.
That's it.
And what's happening here? Because there's no regulation, there's no enforcement, our kids are suffering, our area is suffering, and the sadness is, in other areas, they look at these areas and they say, what do you expect? And what do they mean by what do you expect? That's an open question to anyone out there. We don't want that. This area, the vast majority of people are decent, honest, hard-working. Lots are struggling to survive. They're decent people. But we're not being helped by the council. We're not being helped by the statutory authorities. We are being picked on. We're not getting, as the political parties, as they keep changing their mantras, we're not getting our fair share.
Just to wrap up, a couple of the comments Bas has made. Basim has said basically, councils need to stop actually listening to us and the residents, not playing games of who to decide is worth communicating with or furthering careers. And she carries on saying, do these issues ever matter to them? And she's answered her own question, and she says, well, they're more worried about losing their votes. But as always, on my community talk show, I always give a right of reply. I always ask the councillors to come on one of my programmes, pick up an issue, more than welcome to give them that platform. So
And
this
I
message
hope-
will go out to the
I hope
community.
I hope Liam Byrne and Jess Phillips are
and
listening, and they will come.
The
So we've got
MPs,
questions to them.
Liam has been on our programmes before, and we asked them to come on our programmes, and whatever the burning issue is of the day, the residents, the electorate who've got them in that place, they want answers. So we've always give everybody the opportunity. We always give everybody the right of reply. And as always, I'm overrun my time. I'm very, very grateful for both of you, Naeem and Jerry, as always.
Thank you for the
Thank
time.
And it's a pleasure. And as we go into the new year and early spring, maybe you can come back on again and just to update us with
We'd be happy to.
any new success stories. I'm very, very pleased with what you're doing. Carry on keeping the good work in the community. Listeners, there you are. We're coming to the end of another community talk show. This was Jerry Moynihan and Naeem Youssef from Small Heath Community Forum.
Small Heath Forum.
Small Forum.
Sorry, Small Heath Forum. As a forum set up in Small Heath and for the benefit of the community. Until next time, take care and speak to you soon. Khada Hafiz.